For someone who is listening, and these are some questions that I got in that came in that feel like they've lost their voice, maybe their identity. Maybe they've raised the kids and now it's like, now what? Or maybe again shifting, they're pivoting, but they feel that lack inside, like my voice isn't heard, or I don't know who I am. Any words of advice for those ladies?
Sure. Believe it or not, it's not something you can figure out alone in a vacuum, right? So to find your voice or hear your own inner wisdom, sometimes, I mean, yes, we need the silence of hearing our own inner wisdom, but how we really cement our place in the world is by being out there with other people. So even if you just feel moved to volunteer, or you feel moved to, try a class in something, it will start showing you something about yourself. How people use you, what people seem to come to you for, what are some of your strengths and talents that maybe you did not give time to. And those things come out by doing and by being in action, not so much by being by yourself navel gazing. So I always make the analogy too of like sort of following the breadcrumbs through the forest, like Hansel and Gretel left behind to get home, that you follow the little breadcrumbs. Sometimes there's not one big, huge aha or 2x4 that hits you over the head. It's you follow the small interests and you see how that grows you, how that changes you. Let's say, when you feel rudderless or you feel like you don't know what your identity is, it's an opportunity. It really is an opportunity. It doesn't feel good, so we get panicked about it, but it's really a sign that you are evolving. It's a sign that maybe what informed your choices before was less about being authentically yourself. And so when you've run your life based on what everybody else needs, let's use a mom for an example, and an empty nester, and you've run around and been very efficient and effective and amazing. And then when that goes away, there is that big question of, okay, without serving my family, who am I? And it's an amazing opportunity, but it is a scary place to be. And just don't do it alone. Get in a support group with other women, or join groups that interest you based around hobbies or things that interest you, volunteer, and start noticing how people respond to you. Because I find there's something organically about each of us that may have nothing to do with a resume skill that people use us for. Back when I was an actress and waitress, I can look back at my past and see how many waiters I worked with would sit me down at the 4 p.m. dinner that we had before we went on the floor to do our shift and say, "Hey, Laura, I want to get my men's fashions into Barney's, New York. How do you think I would do that?" And I was like, how do I know? I mean, I don't know anything about fashion or retail or how that works. And yet I would brainstorm with people, and lo and behold, this gentleman did do exactly that. He had a line of ties in Barney's, New York, and he went on. I've run into him in an airport a couple of years ago. Turns out he's now a big interior designer, right? So people always came to me to see the forest through the trees. And I could have never told you, sitting at that table, waiting on tables, trying to make my Broadway dream come true, that would become what I did. And so I repeat, you can't do it alone. You've got to be out in the world and see how the world is responding to you. And that's how you find how the world needs you, what your contribution is.
Awesome. That's really good. And I'm a believer in that. And I think you talk about that too. And now what is like, sometimes just those things that are hobbies or interests, they may lead into a career, they may not, but they're kind of there for a reason. You really encourage people to explore those things.